So we're going to finish off this podcast then with a fairly small film that there definitely hasn't been a podcast on already.
No.
In this world. We're breaking ground here. We're going to talk about Avengers Endgame.
Yes, a little-known indie classic. Unless it's been used for money laundering fronts, then going by the box office results, everybody who had the barest interest in seeing this film has already seen it. Or you're waiting for it to appear in home formats, in which case you're probably not going to listen to this in case we spoil it for you. And we probably will, so if you are, then please just skip over this. Right, now that they've gone, it's either people who've already seen the film or people who have no interest whatsoever in it, so neither group really need all that much of a plot recap, so I will give you the short version. Our surviving heroes from the Infinity War, gauntlet-y type thing, are rejoined 5 years after Thanos' hemimation? Is this decimation, then would half be a hemimation? I was trying to work that out. Is it semi or hemi? I'm not sure.
I don't know. The happening.
Yes, after that's probably better, the happening. Yeah, so they're struggling to come to terms with the loss and the hemi-apocalypse that has been brought about. Through the mighty powers of contrivance, Paul Rudd's Ant-Man is accidentally retrieved from the quantum realm, which he was entrapped in at the end of the Ant-Man and the Wasp. But for him, only a few hours have passed due to quantum. That gets... Basically, yes. That gets him thinking about time travel, which is cracked after a short period of moping from a damaged Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and Mark Ruffalo's conglomerated Professor Hulk. They then go to great lengths for establishing their universe's rules for time travel and go on a time heist to capture the Infinity Stones from before Thanos can get them, to undo everything, and then they must put them back where they found them, which makes for an unexpectedly clever and engaging middle stretch of this movie before throwing it out of the window in the final act, alongside the laboriously and tediously established time travel rules, in order to repeat the last half hour of the last film, but with a slightly different end result. It's basically the Rocky II of the MCU. Now,
that's quite a good analogy, actually.
Yeah. Thankfully, I don't care all that much about plot holes in comic book movies because, at best, they are always composed of loosely linked plot holes with a spackle of character and CG covering it, and adding time travel only compounds that, but it's not enough to ruin the heart of this film. It's not going to stop me calling it out because it's badly written on a narrative level, purely because if you're going to waste my time with the boring establishment of this time travel mechanic, I'd appreciate at least some kind of hand-wavy throwaway reason that they go flying out of the window in this last act just because you need to get to some contractually mandated CG showdown. But that's quantum for you.
I'll take none of your dissing of Back to the Future, thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah, that's quantum for you, which pushes the boundaries of what's sensible in a universe that has actual magic in it. Now, the end state of this film is not that far off what you could have reasonably predicted, given the almost impossible to avoid news of release schedules and contract negotiations and the like. Given the dominance Marvel has had over the pop culture landscape over the past 20-odd film MCU, so this is the 22nd film or 21st or something like that, so it's a lot of them.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah,
but it's been going since, what, 2008, I think, first Iron Man, the first.
Yeah, well, an awfully long time, but even despite that, it manages to throw in enough twists over the course to give this some interesting scope for the future films. And in its central aim as a review of the highlights of the first season of these films, or whatever we call these episodes, because the MCU is something very different from film as we'd understand it, I think it does it really well. It benefits greatly from Chris Evans and Downey Jr. seeing light at the end of the tunnel, both far less disinterested than in previous outings, and it's a solid send-off for them. As a cynical Gen Xer, I was surprised to see some minor public outpouring of emotion on their behalf. In the cinema I watched this in. To me, it's like being upset about the rebranding of a chocolate bar, but I suppose people have grown up with these characters, as you say. It's been over a decade now. People can have grown up with these characters, and they have been plastered over every conceivable movie tie-in and merchandising. They're everywhere. I can kind of see why it would kind of be part of their identity, and maybe losing that is in some way losing part of themselves. I can see their point of view, even if, I'm far too cynical to even vaguely understand it. Yeah,
it's certainly more valid in this film than it was in the last one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because you know that's never going to stick, so it was meaningless in the last one. But here, I get it. It's not so bad. It doesn't bother me here.
Yeah, I could whitter on for ages, but I won't, other than to say, despite the plot holes you could literally drive a spaceship through, it mostly delivers on the spectacle and emotion that a series closer needs, with enough humour and urgency to keep things mostly belting along for such that the running time, for once, doesn't feel like a problem. This is up there with Marvel's best. Oh, but they still can't write female characters for toffee, and we'd be better served minimising that until they hire someone who can. There's one scene so forced and undeserved in the final act that's so embarrassing I pretty much cringed myself into a pretzel. Look, come back after Black Widow and Captain Marvel films and we'll talk, but until then, maybe just don't draw attention to it.
Is it the crazy, powerful women shot in the middle of a fight?
Yes.
Where they're apparently all together.
What annoyed me about that, right? You've started me now. What annoyed me, okay, right, fine, you've got Captain Marvel, for my qualms with that film, strong female character and all that stuff, yeah, good, have her there, centre stage, fine. I think you've written yourself into a corner with that character, and that's why you kind of wrote her out for most of this film, but anyway, she deserves to be there. And then you've tried to create a kind of hero shot with all these strong female characters that they have, and it's like, okay, right, you've got Captain Marvel, yes. Scarlet Witch, okay, kind of. And then the Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy, not really. Minor supporting character at best. Pepper Potts.
Yeah, Pepper Potts was a weird one.
Pepper
Black
Potts.
Panther's sister.
Yes. Again, I can almost get behind that, but it's like it's a bunch of characters that you've barely defined at best. And no, you don't get to have that. Come back when you've written some actual films with females in mind, and we'll talk. But no, that scene was just cringy, and at the same point with the sound swelling, it's like, no, get away from me. That's just not right. Come back when you've done it properly. But that was a minor quibble against an end sequence that, for once, kind of deserved to have all that kind of CG money thrown at it. The scene where all the kind of previously disappeared heroes just show up through the portals, all that stuff, that works really well in the cinema scene. That's a nice little crescendo and a good way to kind of send this film packing towards the final end of it. All that worked very well. It's funny in places. It gives an awful lot of scope to move from future for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It does take some interesting risks with characters. There's some fat shaming I'm not quite so happy about, given that as a fat man myself, I don't. Poor Thor. I don't think putting Thor in a fat suit should automatically be funny, but to be fair, kind of is.
Yeah, I was like, I'm a fat man too, and it didn't bother me at all. So I saw that apparently there was like a lot of backlash and stuff. Like, I found it funny, and I'm fatter than him, so it's like, what's the problem?
That Hemsworth, Chris, is it? That Chris? Yeah, that's Hemsworth, isn't it? Yeah, he's just very funny. One of the funniest Hollywood Chris's that we have, and it should be praised as such. And it's nice to see Korg again, of course. Yeah, sorry. What do you make in general?
I enjoyed it, but it is nowhere near as enjoying or well made as Infinity War. I enjoy Infinity War so much more. Maybe that's got something of the kind of Empire Strikes Back about it, and it's the dark bit. It's a dark chapter before they come to the resolution.
Right.
So maybe it's a bit more compelling that way, but I think it's a more cohesive film. The story's stronger in Infinity War. Endgame's a bit all over the place. In fact, Endgame's 3 films. And each of them is reasonably entertaining on its own. You've got sort of the first portion, which is them dealing with it, and I quite like that they went forward in time 5 years. Yeah,
it would never get greenlit, but I would have loved to see a whole film just with Captain America in support groups. That would have been a really interesting way to do things.
Like there's a web series leading up to it or something at least.
Yeah, there's at least 2 or 3 series of the television shows you could have done in that interregnum if you'd wanted to bring it out. That was a really interesting concept to see what would happen, because I was assuming this would have been undone immediately. Was my take of coming out of Infinity War, which I was nowhere near as positive as you are. I thought Infinity War was quite dull, but a very interesting setting that you kind of blaze through in about 40 to 50 minutes or something. But could have done a little more exploration.
So there's that film. It's like sort of dealing with it, and is it the only bit in that section apart from the convenient rat? that I didn't really care for is the fact that Tony Stark would have in any way any qualms about whether he was going to do this or not.
Yeah.
Because if you have the entirety of Civil War being about his guilt about some people dying, do you really think he's going to not do something that might save the lives or bring back half of all the forms in existence?
Yes.
No. So, yeah, that's it doesn't... You don't buy that there's ever any moral quandary there, which is a bit of a problem.
I think it almost gets away with that for me just because Robert Downey Jr. is really good.
Yeah, I really like Robert Downey Jr. It's just there's never any believable quandary there.
Yeah.
What I do like in that first section too is that while I knew that the end of Infinity War didn't stick, they were obviously going to undo it, and I was right. I was never in any doubt. They didn't do it quite in the way I expected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, really, not using the time stone and using some other sort of magic isn't really that different. It's the same thing with a different name. So, in this case, it was quantum for reasons. But then once they do that, it becomes it's sort of like Back to the Future 2. With a sort of a caper bent on it, with them going back and interacting in interesting ways with the events of the previous films, and that's really inventive and it's funny. And that whole middle section felt like a film its own again. Yeah, it does feel like three films smacked together.
Yeah, and that may be my favourite bit. As soon as you said it's going to be a time heist, it's like, okay, right, I'm on board with this, so I'll play with along with you.
Time heist, not a phrase that means anything, but okay, sounds good to me. And given that, like, the first Ant-Man film is basically a heist movie and it's one of the more enjoyable ones in the MCU, I thought, I'm on board with this. It's not the strongest in all of its parts. I didn't particularly care much for the changes to Jeremy Renner's character than his battle with Scarlett Johansson. Not great. Like, did they not have any idea what they were going to face? Again, I know I'm in danger of going down the whole plot hole problem that you said yourself you weren't going to talk about. But yeah, that's really quite enjoyable. And then the third bit, final battle, again full of plot holes. Like, suddenly their special time thing doesn't matter. Okay. In the first film, in Infinity War, they had to get special magic glove. Apparently a Tony Stark glove will do. What? No, but doesn't really matter. I did think it was going to really bother me though. You're talking about the CGI battle at the end, which is kind of like a redo of Infinity War. Yeah. And it's like, oh no, it's just going to be a dull battle again. Why are they all running at each other? Why are these advanced space beings fighting in a way that happened on Earth in the 1300s? Yes. It bothered me in Black Panther, it bothered me in Infinity War, it really bothered me in Endgame.
It's the most advanced technology in army on Earth, and they've decided that projectiles, we don't need projectiles, that's not a thing.
Run at each other.
Yeah, come on.
It worked in The Lord of the Rings because they're basically medieval armies. Yeah. It works in Game of Thrones because they're basically medieval armies. Yeah. These are space armies. They wouldn't just run at each other. It looks stupid, and it was stupid in The Phantom Menace as well. So yeah, that bothered me, but fortunately that actually stops quite quickly. Yeah. And it's said that they mix it up a wee bit because they're sort of moving around the battlefield, and it's a bit different from just seeing them run at each other. Like we've seen it at least twice already, as I say, in Infinity War and in Black Panther in particular. So each bit has its problems, but there's still great bits in each bit as well. Yeah. And I was slightly concerned that when they were saying it's going to be 3 hours, like, this sounds like it might be filler. Actually, I thought it just bombed along. Yeah. Which is quite pleasing. I was, as an absolute aside, nothing to do with anything, but all those like warnings about it being 3 hours and stuff and about going to the toilet, just get better bladder control. Stop being rubbish. 3 hour films, if that's a challenge to get through. Anyway. So, as if the 3 hour films are a new thing or something, eh? Yeah. Anyhow. So that, it bombs along quite well, but there are bits that are real problems, like the bit you were talking about, Scott, with the women. I can see, like, as a thing completely separate from the film, it feels like a powerful shot. Like, sort of, that there's not been much representation in big budget films like this with like strong female characters, and a lot of them, right? But it's so contrived. Yeah, it's so forced.
I wouldn't have minded it if it had not been such an obvious PR response to the flack they've been taking for not having any female directors, not having really a great deal of female representation in general throughout the 20-odd arc of films. And this was just sort of obviously, no, look, we're trying kind of shot that had no real place in the film otherwise than to give you that bit of scenery. And like, I again, don't want to misrepresent it. I'm all for it. I think there should be many films that appeal to females and all that other stuff. It is just good common sense, and as many perspectives and takes on this as we can have. That's great for if cinema, if big budget cinema is going to be defined by comic book movies going forward, it should be from every possible angle we can think of, and that's great. But you don't deserve this shot in this film, and it just annoyed me.
Yeah, I mean, because it's in the abstract, yeah, it's a good idea. Like Black Panther, I think Black Panther's a bad film. I actively did not enjoy that film, but sort of the meta of Black Panther was really important.
Yeah,
because lots of people whose skin colour ain't mine have not seen themselves in films of that scale, that success on screen.
Yeah,
and there was always this nonsense that people of non-white skin hues like didn't sell films, and Black Panther blew that out of the water.
Yeah,
I just wish it hadn't been a crap film that did it. But, maybe that'll lead the way to that being less of an issue in the future. But it's so forced, particularly when they don't know how to write women.
Yes,
Most of the women are either they're kind of trophies or they're men with boobs. You know, they're not women. So although they're not always the best characters anyway, even the men don't always have like the strongest character development, so it's not just a problem with it being women. But that shot was so out of place. Again, as I say, in the abstract it works as like a powerful image, but just in context it's moronic. Because there's this battle raging that is apparently like got thousands and thousands and thousands of participants, presumably taking place over some very large area, and yet they all managed to find each other on the battlefield in the middle of battle at the same time, which, no, it's just stupid. And the line about, like, actually it's like she's got backup or whatever it is, it's just so naff.
It's the only scene in 3 hours of filmmaking that is about time travel, intergalactic travel, superheroes, all that kind of stuff that made me roll my eyes because it was so unbelievable. It shouldn't be that case. I don't. You could have done that scene better. If you were going to do it, you should have done it better. That's my complaint with it. It's just awkward, and it's annoying that it becomes a point that you need to talk about, because it's a positive thing in the abstract, like you say, but it's just this specific implementation of it is so bad.
It's ham-fisted at best.
Yeah.
I guess we're full on into spoilers and stuff, right? Because you made that sort of fairly clear at the beginning of this. Either you've seen it or you don't care, or you won't listen to it in case of spoilers. Thanos dies 10 minutes into the film.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then they brought Thanos back, and okay, that's dull.
No, but not just Thanos, also his least interesting bodyguards that I could barely remember. The magic weird person. Good. I'm glad he's back, whoever he was.
That was really disappointing. I thought when they killed him off, because that was really unexpected. It's like, and it was so without ceremony as well.
Yeah.
Thor's just pissed off, chops his head off. Well, I like this. I like the way this is going. And I was really hoping that for the rest of the film there would be no villain.
Yeah.
Because they've got enough of a struggle trying to restore the universe. They don't really need a villain.
Yeah.
Or if it was that maybe, like Thanos has the line, "I'm inevitable."
Yeah.
Right. Which is silly, but you could sort of go down that same sort of line, but it not be him.
Yeah.
That somebody else, the universe fills his place, but with a different character. And at least be something different. I mean, I suppose the good thing about the MCU is that they didn't just... I mean, while he was an incredibly minor character right at the beginning, back in the original Guardians of the Galaxy, and before that, just the original Avengers film, I think, they have built up to him.
Yeah.
Right? And he's a character clearly insane, but a character with understandable motivation.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't megalomania, which really bores me. It wasn't just want to rule the world or rule the universe or something. It's like he believed, wrongly, obviously, but believes that he's doing this for the right reasons.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So he's actually an interesting character, Thanos, but then he sort of did what he wanted, and then it should just end. And the fact that they had the potential to not go with the same thing again. Oh, great! No, they're basically just doing it again.
Yeah.
So I find that really disappointing, actually, because I thought when they did that so early, okay, this film really could be doing something a wee bit interesting. It doesn't. So there's a few things here that I'm frustrated by that they didn't really explore.
Yeah.
That said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think talking about it now, I feel like I enjoyed it more than I actually remember at the cinema. I come out the cinema, I thought, that was quite good. But now I feel like I enjoyed it more, so perhaps on a rewatch I will actually enjoy it more. So yeah, the problems I have with it are some of them like kind of plot hole stuff. This is stuff that always bothers me because my logic circuits are always firing basically, and a few structural problems. But for the most part, yes, it's a very entertaining film. The only real problem I had, and it's fortunate it was far less of a problem than I anticipated though, was Captain Marvel, because I did not enjoy that film. I did not like that character. And I was really concerned, the trailer seemed to put it this way, that she was going to be a really significant role.
Yeah.
And I was examining that and I was thinking, is it just because I don't like Brie Larson, or at least Brie Larson's portrayal of Captain Marvel, or is it a kind of a resentment at this Johnny-come-lately thing? And I honestly suspect it's more that than anything else.
Yeah.
But still, yeah, as you say, they've written themselves into a corner with that character because she's basically magic as well.
Yeah.
And when she does turn up, she basically turns up as some sort of arsehole ex machina. But fortunately, fairly sparingly used, which is good, because that could have really bothered me.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with that character going forward, because it's the same problem we've had with Superman. And I don't want to turn this into a DC versus Marvel argument again, but like, say what you will about the haphazard execution of DC films, right? Both Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman gave us the idea that Superman is quite a boring character in the abstract, but essentially because of that, he is a god. You can't kill him by any conventional methods. He's basically everywhere and can do anything. So basically, those films were what happens when God shows up. And then, for all its many, many faults, just as League was saying, what happens when God dies? Right. Those are very interesting abstract questions that you can do with that character, and I don't think they're going to do anything even remotely similar with Captain Marvel. I have no confidence that Marvel will do anything remotely interesting with that character other than just have her take on increasingly powerful things. We've already seen in this film that she can stand toe-to-toe with the conqueror of the galaxy, the guy that... the guy that wiped out half of the universe. Apparently, she can go toe-to-toe with and not really break sweat.
Yeah, and apparently Thor can't. Actual God Thor.
Yeah, so what are you going to do that's going to be a threat to that character? It was a problem with that film when she's dropped from orbit and crashed into the planet and is fine. It's like, okay, so what are you going to do to damage this character? Where is any dramatic tension going to come from in this character? And you don't even have her kryptonite yet. I presume she must have something, but that's what Superman films devolve to. It's increasingly bizarre ways to get kryptonite into it. Not full of positive, warm, happy thoughts about that character already, which is unfortunate given that, well, I guess we'll see. I'm not convinced that this whole she will be the future of the MCU going forward is actually a thing. I think it's, again, the PR, more of a PR move than anything else, but we'll see.
And again, I want to say that talking of DC and Marvel, Scott, that once again, Wonder Woman did a much better job of having that female superhero first, and it's a much better
Absolutely.
film.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Up until its boring CGI ending, but that's a problem with all of these films, not with that film in particular. Yeah, so I want to see more of Gal Gadot and not Brie Larson, please. Fun film. It's quite an impressive project to have basically spent 11 years and 22 or 23 films building up to this.
Yes.
And for it to be so cohesive.
Yeah.
That's... so many different... I've never particularly cared visually for the Marvel films. I've said it several times before. I'll probably say it again. That they tend not to be remarkable because they're trying to have a cohesiveness which makes them sort of bland.
Yeah.
But in terms of the tones of the plots of the films, there have been some really different things. It's not a 1970s espionage thriller, but I really enjoyed The Winter Soldier, and it definitely has a distinct tone that's different from the rest. The Guardians of the Galaxy and the Thor films in particular. very, especially Thor Ragnarok, it's very different. And then Ant-Man is kind of heist film. So they've tried different things within that universe, and they've been successful. And he brought in all the characters, and then to still make a cohesive thread through all of that. So I'm waving my hands about here because that will be picked up by the microphone, obviously. To have this cohesive thread through all of that, to make it still not just an absolute mess.
Yeah.
And to have established enough of the characters, the even characters here that don't get a lot of screen time, that they're still there enough. And to care about characters and find something actually plot important for them to do, like Tilda Swinton coming back up.
Yeah.
That's like one character from Doctor Strange, and so I guess it's sort of fan service to bring it back, but at the same time, I actually know it was meaningful.
Yeah. And
kind of interesting. So the wee touches like that, is the whole enterprise has been incredibly well crafted. It's a pretty impressive thing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, it's again in the meta of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole, there have been some bad films in there, some that have worked much better than others, but as a whole, it's an impressive feat, and I've certainly found it more enjoyable than not for the most part.
Yeah, I'm definitely hitting over 50% with Marvel films, and that's
comfortably, I think.
Yeah, and that's even as someone who's probably more of a skeptic about these sort of films than most seem to. So again, I can see why this was sort of emotionally affecting to have like people who've grown up with the go away, and this being the kind of last hurrah for them. But I think it opens up a lot of opportunities for what they could do going forward. So I'm actually quite interested to see that. Between that and opening it up wider, the Disney conglomerate eating Fox and various other people gives us a whole lot more options to go from Spider-Man. We could potentially see the X-Men kind of franchise coming into this. And there's all sorts of interesting ways this could go in future. So it's certainly given it a new lease of life as it goes into, well, I would call it phase 2, but I think it's technically phase 4 or whatever the marketing slogan they want to use for it. But yeah, the next lot of Marvel arc, if you like, will certainly be interesting. As I say, it's not really filmmaking in the traditional sense anymore, because one criticism I guess you could have with this is that you're not going to get anything like the full impact of this if you've not seen the previous 20-odd films, but they're such pop culture titans that you can't not have seen those 20-odd films. It's not really a valid criticism. It's like, sure, if you go and see this film without seeing all the rest of them, you don't get the full impact, but you probably have, you know?
Yeah, but I guess the way you're talking, it almost feels like a big screen TV series.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, because there was some noise around, like, apparently, like, Endgame didn't cater to people who hadn't seen it before, but A, why the hell should it?
Yeah.
And B, if you're going to see this but haven't seen any others, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
They're not difficult to come by. They're hardly unknown. And if you're going to drop into the 22nd or 23rd episode of a TV programme and not having seen the others, you're an idiot.
Yes.
So, no, just shut your stupid faces. With where it goes in the future, there's... I don't have as much hope for the future, actually, Scott, because one of the most interesting characters is gone. If Thor ends up in the Guardians of the Galaxy, then I'm totally on board for that. That's not slightly the way we go. That could be really fun, because that was really good in Infinity War. Thor and the Noble Rabbit rocket. But he's like sort of handed over to things to the Valkyrie, so I guess she would be like female Thor, which I believe is at least one version of the comics as a female Thor. But she's quite boring. And then I like Anthony Mackie a lot, but if he's going to be the new Captain America, he's not a magic man, he's just a man. How's that going to work? So I have questions.
Yeah. I would possibly agree if Chris Evans hadn't been so bored in his role since actually before the first film. I thought
it feels like that, yeah. No, it's not the Chris Evans going away thing that bothers me. It's just the actual character Anthony Mackie's Falcon. It's like, yeah, but he's just he's not like
he's just a boy in a jetpack. Yeah,
he's a boy with a jetpack. He's a man with wings. So like, yeah, man, how is that going to work? But okay, maybe they'll come to that. And then it's a good film. It's a good way to end that. I mean, and they could just end it there. I don't think they will, because they've got all of that money to make, and they've got like, I'd say like half a dozen at least film, a TV series lined up.
Yeah.
And there's some of like the main ones will be on the new Disney channel.
Yes.
Apparently, Hulu gets ones.
Yeah, to be honest, if there's anything that's putting a crimp on what Marvel would do going forward, it's this Disney streaming service looming, because we've all seen what Disney does to its franchises to fill up.
Disney can't leave stuff alone.
Yeah, we've all seen, or at least heard of, the sequels to actually good films that they've just driven to the dirt, like The Lion King 7, which is where basically like spin-off series about like minor characters and all that stuff. They've bled these things to death.
The Aladdin sequels and things.
And you could do that to death in Marvel as well. But God, we'll see. I think the acquisition of the X-Men stuff, I think, gives them enough leeway to do a whole bunch of stuff that at least new or rebooted again. That could work, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's the problem too, is that they've made so much money.
Yeah,
it's now going to be extremely hard to justify to their shareholders not trying to cash in more of these to make the same amount of money, if not more. So it's like they kind of feel beholden, and it's not like Disney have any scruples about that artistically. So we'll see. I guess we'll see.
It's baffling. I think it's $2.5 billion worldwide, and it's nowhere near finished at the time we record this.
For home video.
Yeah, it's such an incredible amount of money. So let's hope they do something positive with it. But we'll see. Yeah,
like return copyright back to a reasonable.
Never going to happen. Never going to happen.
Yeah, there's a problem if the company's making things that you enjoy, but then you realise there's so many reasons to despise Disney.
Yeah.
Yes, but I guess that's it from us then for this evening, Scott.